Well, good evening and welcome to another episode of the Pemmy Valley Podcast. Tonight we'll be talking with board members of the Mill City Park at Franklin Falls. The park features New England's only whitewater park on the Winnipesaukee River, and there is so much more to this park. It's not just the whitewater park, and we're going to learn so much about its creation and evolution over the last 10 years. And before we get to the interview, podcast next week will be with Nate Alberts of North Country Community Radio, Kelly Landry Cook, the owner of Terrapin Tours. She'll be on Wednesday, June 18th. And then Sean Terhune, a local photographer extraordinaire, will be on the 25th. And speaking of upcoming attractions, no, I didn't say anything about that. We're going to be hearing from two local businesses, and two of them you listened to last week. We have Sam and Mariah with a Breezy Hill Farm, and they're going to come on right now and tell you what's going to be coming up at their place up in Lisbon, New Hampshire. Sam and Mariah, welcome back. How are you today?
Hi, John. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Hot.
Yes.
Really hot.
Another warm day here. Yeah, so we're Sam and Mariah. We are the owners and operators of Breezy Hill Farm up here in Lisbon, New Hampshire. We have a self-serve farm stand that's open 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night every day. Come in, cash, check, Venmo. We accept all of that, and we have tons of products. We have meat that we raise here on the property, as well as baked goods that Mariah puts out on Friday mornings, cookies, breads, all sorts of good stuff. And then we also are making goat milk ice cream right now, which has been the biggest hit on these hot days going into summer. So come on up to Breezy Hill Farm, check it out, and yeah, hope to see you all there.
Absolutely. And I can chime in right now about the goat milk ice cream. It is fantastic. And here I was a little bit apprehensive trying it. I wasn't sure, but I love it. It's fantastic. What are the flavors that are available right now?
We have a strawberry rhubarb with fresh stuff right out of the garden. We have a salted caramel pretzel, a cookies and a cream, and pistachio just sold out, but we're making more every day. So
perfect. Well, that sounds fantastic. All right, Mariah,
thanks,
Sam, thank you very much for taking some time, and we will see you soon.
Yes,
thanks, John.
All right, you're very welcome. And next up we have Dan Clark of Dandelion Eatery, and he has a food truck at the Campton Commons in Campton, just off of exit 28. Dan Clark, what is new with you?
Hey, everybody. Dan here at Dandelion Eatery. I'm here at Campton Commons. We've got Straws Plus, the Sammy Shack, and of course Dandelion Eatery here. We have a lot of live music coming this summer, including Dane Anderson coming up this Sunday, 12 to 2. I rotate my menu regularly, but always on the menu is my Japanese fried chicken and my Wicked Gouda mac and cheese, which is my signature mac and cheese. But I have a bunch of new menu items coming up, and we look forward to serving New Hampshire.
Absolutely, especially that summertime is here. You'll definitely be having a hopping place there, live entertainment. It's a nice little setup that the Campton Commons are. So we look forward to seeing you as much as we possibly can.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Dan. Thank you for taking the time to jump on with us, and we will talk to you very soon.
Excellent.
All right, and now we're going to bring on board. We have Nick Mason, Jeremy Locks, and Christy Mank. Welcome to the Pemmy Valley Podcast, board members of Mill City Park at Franklin Falls. How is everybody today?
Great. Thank you, John.
Yeah. Good. Thanks for having us, John.
Yep. Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure. It has been a while since we talked. So actually, we talked 5 years ago when the Pemmy Valley Podcast was just audio. So now we get to see each other. This is fantastic. And so let's go. What I'd like to do is go back, as we said, the creation of the park and its evolution over the last 10 years, because it's not just a whitewater park. There is so much more. And when I went to go visit last summer, taking the bike walking path for about 1.5 miles, going to the Upside Down Bridge, And now you can see so much of the mills that were pretty much grown over and they pretty much disappeared. And now they're kind of coming back to life, and there's so much. And so, fill everybody in.
You want me to start? I'll start.
Nick, you can start. Absolutely.
I'll start and I'll hand stuff off to the guys. Mill City Park is a 501c3 organization, a nonprofit. It's also the name of an actual physical park in Franklin that we are sort of reclaiming. It's a lot of industrial revolution. Franklin was a very large paper and textile mill town, like a lot of New England. And as those industries went into decline, as you said, there's a lot of abandoned old mills along this stretch of river. And then it turns out that for the same reason that a town like Franklin sprung into the paper industry, into having a whole bunch of riverfront mills, also makes for a pretty good whitewater river, because the river's flow is controlled so well coming out of Lake Winnipesaukee, Lake Winnisquam, etc. So the river is very heavily regulated as far as the flow. And it's almost really never too high and never too low. And so because of that, and because Franklin has been looking sort of for a new identity and for something to attract new people, it sprung forth from an idea. Like I think I said this on the podcast last time, there's always been this sort of this idea way back in the past, even that this would be a great place for a whitewater park. Mm-hmm. Our executive director, when he came into town about 10 years ago, he is a man of action and put it into play. And the first whitewater feature, sort of a surf wave, a man-made concrete wave, was built in an existing park called Trestleview Park, which is right downtown, sort of across the street and across the river from our physical location at Mill City Park. And that was built in the summer of, I guess it was really truly built in the fall of 2021, and the summer of 2022 was our first summer with an operational whitewater park. Mm-hmm. And then we also do a lot of work on the land, improving the trails, sort of exposing some of the old mills, and unfortunately picking up lots and lots of trash and industrial debris and removing it from the property to improve it. So that's basically it. It's Mill City Park it's a little confusing because it is the name of our organization. It is the name of the park that we're creating, and it is the name sort of a project that we're involved in, of building the whitewater park, even in parts of the river that aren't necessarily in Mill City Park are a part of the Mill City Park project. Right.
And it was something that I found so interesting the first time we talked and learned about this, that, it's not just going to bring, it's not just for paddlers. It's just so much more. This reading about the bike trail. And as you said, bringing the community to the river and vice versa. And a lot of these factory mill towns, when there's the decline and pretty much when the factories and mills close, there is kind of an identity crisis. And as you're moving forward, and with many towns going to recreation, has there been how well has the transition gone? Of course, there's going to be some people that don't like it. Of course, it's always going to happen. But is it really, for the most part, just something positive? I know driving through that area, you can get that vibe of a paddler type town. Kind of hard to explain, but you can just see how there is the colors of people who like whitewater is coming up.
Well, I mean, I'll jump in here and I'll say that it does certainly attract paddlers, but we strive to build out the land portion of the park as well, because I only get in the water when these guys make me on New Year's Day for polar plunge, and then I run straight to the sauna. But we're just creating something for everyone there. So there's a huge land-based component, the bicycle and hiking trails, and in the future, the bicycle pump track, climbing wall, and other features, even a community garden there, where people can share food. They can come out, enjoy nature, pollinators, and just have a walking path. I mean, I see people in the water all the time, fishing, boating, just having a great time. But I get a lot of enjoyment out of the land-based portion too. And when I go into the park and I see people picnicking or walking their dogs, it makes those work days, picking up trash and old industrial debris that keeps surfacing, it makes it a lot sweeter to put in that effort to just see people enjoying that. And then all the good things that it's brought to the economy in the downtown area too.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the feel that I have in the downtown area near the park. Yes, there were some buildings that were dormant, and you bring a whole new demographic in. Some of the ski areas, as they when they start having like the lift assisted downhill biking, for instance, it's a whole new demographic that you're bringing in the summertime. So it's fun to see and hear about the what's been happening around in the town as the water park does develop. And so for like the pump track, for instance, is it installed yet, or is it almost?
It's in the planning stages at
Okay.
this point. So we're working on the engineering and then also working on funding for it. So it's still a few years out on that one.
Perfect. But it's being planned, and that just seems pretty cool. And now, as we're talking about the abandoned mills, let's say going through a transition, what was the process, let's say, getting the river ready for becoming a whitewater park? Because as you said, there was trash that gets left behind, but industrial waste, like I remember reading in some of the river guide books years ago about paddling the Winnipesaukee River there was specific things to look out for, and you pretty much made it so much safer. So like, actually, how did that process happen?
I'll say a lot of the work that we do of removing industrial debris, we've mostly been doing the work on the land. The stuff that was in the river, there have been groups of paddlers, because long before Mill City Park was an idea, there already were people paddling the stretch of Whitewater. It's only about 1.25 miles of Whitewater from Cross Mill Road to downtown Franklin. So it's a fairly short stretch of river. And there were paddlers who have been trying to sort of improve it for a long time. Well before we were around, there were people who would, if there was a particularly terrible piece of debris, they would remove it. If there was rebar sticking up, they would try to wrestle that out of the river or pound it down or something so it wasn't poking into people's boats. So there's been lots of that sort of effort. And then obviously creating the first surf wave there by Trestleview Park, they did remove some stuff from the river, not a lot, because that really is sort of below where most of the remaining debris is in the river. So there was a little bit of debris removal with heavy equipment while they were doing that work, creating cofferdams and building the wave. But most of the stuff that we have done as far as removing industrial debris, it's along the river banks. It's things where it seems like you're out in the woods, but really the trees around you are only 80 or 100 years old, and 100+ years ago you would have been standing in the middle of a building, a big brick building that's currently, you would never, unless you've been told this and you've sort of you sort of understand how quickly nature can reclaim an urban industrial environment. We haven't done a ton ourselves as a group of going in and removing industrial debris. Some of that work has been done. Some of it is going to be part of the next wave of construction, is sort of rechannelizing a little bit of water to make it flow a little bit better at low water levels, typical summer water levels. Although there really is no typical summer water level anymore in the modern climate change world. You got to be ready. It can be high water all summer and low all spring. It can be, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's all snowfall and rain dependent. But yeah, no, there still is a lot of industrial debris in the river. There are there's old cribbing, there's rebar, there's concrete. there are old storm drains and things like that. Old terracotta pipes that were
Millstones.
Yeah, millstones. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot. There's a lot still out there in the river, along the river edge, and sometimes just out there in the middle of the woods.
And just take note, and you go as safely as you can. It does blow my mind when you're in some of the these old mill towns, and you go into the mill like where it's just been abandoned. As you said, the trees have come in. It's just that nature's taken it back over, and these large pieces of machinery are just there. Air compressors, water pumps, and it was just, all right, we're done. Peace. We're heading out. It does blow my mind like how much stuff just gets abandoned. I don't know if they thought they were going to come back, but there it is. When with the what's pretty interesting about reading about the park is that there is a steady flow of water for the Winnipesaukee River, that the river can be run 365 days a year. And so I would love to hear more about that, and where you have the amount of people that are coming in. What are the numbers like as this park? I hear a lot of people talk about it, and there's got to be a lot of buzz, especially for the fact that it's New England's first whitewater park. And so, like, what are the numbers like? And especially wintertime, January 1st, New Year's Day, that's also obviously very special. Then it's been a long-standing tradition, but just winter paddlers in general.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Winter paddlers, I would say it's probably more than you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was one day that, I'm in the coffee shop. I look around and it's me and Nick and a couple other paddlers sitting there, like, getting coffee before we go paddling. It's like, feels a little weird in February.
Yeah.
This past winter wasn't great just because it was low water most of the winter, and I mean it was a cold winter, so. But the days when you get a little break, like, people will be out there. Overall numbers, I don't know. Nick, do you have any idea?
We had a phenomena this year too, where it isn't very common that the river would ice over, but we actually had icing this year. So it would be hard to gauge based on this year how many paddlers are out there in the wintertime, because it just really wasn't safe with the ice shelves there.
Okay.
But still, they were just itching to go. And in years past, like Jeremy was saying, like more than you think. Yeah, in the wintertime.
I'll brag for Jeremy and just let you know he has a streak going. Is it 20 years?
26
years. Jeremy has paddled at least one day each calendar month for 26 years. And for the past, 15, 17 years, he's lived in central New Hampshire, which is not an easy place to do that. And so the Winnie is really, it's one of the only games in town as far as something that you can expect to find open, moving whitewater in January. I mean, chances are it will be low. Although that's not, I say that. Chances are when it's been really cold and we've had a winter like we had last winter, it's low. But the previous couple winters, I mean, what Jeremy's talking about is we had some days out there, must have been, so it was after the first year, must have been in early 2023, when it was it would have been 2023. Early 2023, we had a mild winter. And I mean, I think that year I had more January paddling days than I did skiing days, which is unheard of for me. I'm not somebody, I've never tried to keep up a streak like Jeremy does. I used to be somebody who tried to put away all my paddling gear on December 1st and not touch it again until April. But that's just not the reality anymore. And you have to sort of be ready to go at any given moment if you want to catch the high water. There were some days that winter where, I mean, we had a dozen people, surfing the wave in February. It's really unusual. Obviously, this winter was a little bit different. This was sort of a classic cold. Once it finally started snowing in January, it snowed 2 inches a day every day for 6 weeks or something like that. So I think was your February day like February 28th or something? Jeremy,
yeah, I think so.
Barely. This was
he
almost lost his streak this winter. and snuck in at the very, very end of February because
Right when the ice broke up.
I'd imagine February is historically probably the most difficult month to nab.
That's great. February 28th, we have the ice broken. We can get this done. We're doing it. I think that's awesome. So that is an incredible streak.
Yeah.
Jeremy, good for you. That's fantastic. I thought a buddy of mine just finished doing a 4,000 footer every single day for 366 days. That's up there. That's really up there. Okay, Jeremy, and now my friend Adam. Okay, it's something to really look up to. I will never get it done, but that looks really cool. Now actually, you know what we should do right now? Speaking of that, let's just jump right onto it right now. We're going to bring up some fantastic pictures. So people are not believing that this actually happens. Here we go. Is this any of you?
That's me. That
me. Is you.
Yeah.
So then we have Nick paddling through the moguls of the Winnipesaukee River.
That was on the historic, like that was a notoriously cold day. I think that was New Year's Day 2018. And it was about -2 when everybody woke up. Most of the paddling was done. It was between 3 degrees and 9 degrees outside when everybody was going down the river. Now that was one where we had just enough cold days beforehand that you had acclimated to the cold a little bit. It wasn't just like all of a sudden it was 3 degrees outside, but we hadn't had an entire winter of cold weather where the river completely iced over. So you'll see I'm actually I unzipped the hood off of my wife's down black coat. Like every woman in New Hampshire has to have a nice black down coat to wear. I unzipped the hood and I have it over my helmet and wrapped around as like some extra face and neck protection. But yeah, it was cold. There were a lot of people who blasted down the river quickly and then went right home to their wood stove that day.
Right. Be like, okay, I did it. Put it in the history books.
Yeah.
That's and here's
I think I did 4 or 5 runs that day.
Did you? Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for
Wow.
you. You had acclimated.
Yeah.
You're built for it. So that's Andrew Fournier, who was on the podcast with me last time, John. That's one of our former board members. That's another New Year's Day. That might be the same year. There were a lot of frozen beards that year.
I can imagine. I'm remembering back in 2018, that was a great winter. That was a great winter for skiing, and obviously it was a great winter for paddling too. Do have a good question. When you were mentioning about having the hood up over the helmet and make sure you stay warm, anybody, the added danger there can be if you flip, or do you just pretty much adapt to it as really quickly? I know that sounds probably stupid, but to be wearing all those layers and going into the water, and you have ice on pretty much all those boulders and whatnot, that's an interesting thing to imagine yourself in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some added risk and added challenge to it. But yeah, it's you don't want to be upside down or swimming in those conditions if you can avoid it
at all. Yeah. Okay. I would say, did have any of you had to go through that?
I mean, Jeremy and I have both definitely swam before. I have not on a New Year's Day run on the Winnie or anything like that.
Like on a winter run? Okay.
And not to say that it can't happen or that it wouldn't happen, but most paddlers, there's enough self-preservation. Obviously, it's a dangerous sport. You're putting yourself at risk by paddling whitewater, but there's enough self-preservation mentality where only people who are fairly confident in their skills are going to go out on New Year's Day. And most people are going to paddle. They're not going to be pushing themselves. They're not going to be trying to hit every single, hole or wave or eddy line. There's a lot of sort of let's blast down the river as quick as possible, paddle fairly conservatively. Not everybody.
Yeah, you back off in terms of pushing yourself in those conditions, just because it is, the consequences are higher. And when the water's that cold, it just hurts when you flip.
Oh God, yeah, I can only imagine. Is that he was saying too about just getting down the river? It's like, okay, we did the run, going back home to my wood burning stove. That sounds fine. And so what do we have in this picture right here?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
That looks like Winnie River Days, which is coming up in 2 weeks, week and a half, I guess.
Mhm.
So that's our annual river festival. We do some competitions. So looks like the competitors from that.
Yeah, I think that was probably not last year, but the year before. I think
so.
that's everybody who competed in the freestyle competition at Winnie River Days.
And actually, how many people does that draw? That does look like, I've seen pictures in the past. It looks like a really good time.
Yeah. Winnie River Days. I'm sure we can talk a little bit more about Winnie River Days. That it draws a host
Absolutely.
of paddlers, and then obviously that's one where we try to make it interesting enough for the non-whitewater crowd to show up. There's a bunch of community. There's vendors from people selling clothing and whatnot to other nonprofit organizations just trying to get information out about themselves. We have a beer garden. Franklin has two, really, really good breweries these days. Kettlehead, who their main building is in Tilton. They have a secondary one in Franklin, and they brew their beer there in Franklin. And then Vulgar Brewing they brew in the same place. So we generally have a beer garden and some food vendors and various
Live music.
Yeah, live music.
Very cool.
Lots of different stuff. That'll be next weekend, June 13th and 14th, Friday and Saturday.
Very cool.
And yeah, you should definitely come down.
If I have some extra time from work, I will. No, that'd be a lot of fun to check out. Definitely. And we have some. Actually, we want to talk about the feature that's right behind the paddlers, right here.
Sure. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, so that's the surf wave that we've built so far, or the first one. It's all at low water. It's a good kind of, I guess, beginner sort of feature hole. Really good for boogie boarding too. Nick is one of our resident boogie board gurus, instructors. My son, who's 11, really enjoys boogie boarding at low water. For high, the higher it gets, the better. I would say the better it gets for kayaking. But that's that's the one that's in right now, and then there are two more that we're going to be building in the near future, upstream.
Very
of that.
cool.
Hey, that's us.
I do like that. Shouldn't we be skiing right now? I'm like, that's a great.
That was I made that during that winter we were talking about. That's probably January of 2023. You can see there's no snow on the ground. That's Jeremy lining up for a big blunt, which is a freestyle kayaking move, and that's me sitting over in the far eddy, wondering, what the heck I'm doing with my life that I'm that I'm surfing a kayak in downtown Franklin in January, instead of being at Cannon Mountain. But,
Yep. And then there are two people that are like in front of that white car, maybe thinking the same thing. What are they doing? Shouldn't they be skiing right now?
yes.
That's cool. That is a great shot. That is a really cool shot. And there we have a better shot of that wave right there. That looks a nice summer day. And
Oh yeah, you can see the boogie boards there. Yeah.
yes,
Boogie boards. That's actually, if you notice, if you can zoom in on Colby, who's on the wave, he's actually, Jeremy likes to say, Colby's our best boogie boarder. He's a Franklin local. And I believe in that picture, he's actually laying on his back. So he gets on the wave on his belly, and then one of his tricks is to roll over on the boogie board. So he's laying on it like a Barca lounger.
oh wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. No, I
He's
would
got
not
skills. He's got
yeah.
skills.
that is definitely some skills right there. Yes.
Yeah.
And then some water is a little bit higher for the kayakers to get involved. Obviously, it's at a level for the boogie boarding as well.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Another fantastic shot.
That's more Jeremy right there. There he is.
Excellent shot right there. And here's a little bit further back. I love this shot because now you can see how it's like a little amphitheater that's right there next to that wave. The amount of people that can go observe watch. You don't have to be involved. Sorry, you don't have to be in the water to be having a good time to watch all the skill that's happening here.
Very true.
Yeah, the statistics from other whitewater parks for what is it? Every 2 people that are in the water, it's 8 people on shore.
I can see that stat working out. Yeah. Oh, cool.
Particularly
is-
if it's a nice day.
True. And right here, another good example. How much room there is. It's great.
Yep.
That is a really cool setup. And as you said about your a lot of the cleanup efforts, and you know that once the mills, because we actually can kind of go away from the river right now, we can talk about some of the other things that the Mill City Park is developing. Unfortunately, a lot of mill towns, as you know, once the mills closed, it just became like open trash pits. I remember it pretty much happens all over the United States. And so for all that to be cleaned up, and as you said, you're constantly going to still be finding trash. Pretty much, is there a light at the end of the tunnel as the park is developed?
Oh, I'd say it's gotten a lot lighter. Wouldn't you guys
Good.
agree? I mean, yeah, the lifting doesn't, it's not as heavy, and we see real reward now with the condition of the trails, the enhancement and lengthening of the hiking trails that we've been able to do since most of the debris has been removed. And, some of the concrete structures and things that are still there, we're able to incorporate into the design of the land-based features. So, as long as they're not hazardous, it's nice to include them. And then we're working with some people who are really keen on the history of the mills, so that we can develop a story as people walk down those trails, so they can see what this used to look like, in picture and in words. And it'd be interesting for them to see what it's become.
Oh, absolutely. I remember there's been a few projects across the White Mountain region in New Hampshire where they were trying to set up like a GPS tour. And so you would go to a certain area and you could pull up a picture and it would show like what was there before. Like this would be one of the dams that produce electricity for the mill, or you'd actually see the peg mill. And to really put it to imagine some of these buildings, which you can't imagine that now. It was, unless you were told, you'd have no idea that there was a building about a half mile long that produced, again, pegs or paper or what have you. It's fascinating. And so even people that really aren't into the history, just to start imagining that this is what was here, telling people about the East Branch Lincoln Railroad, for instance, and when you're going miles in the Pymmy Wilderness, and I've been approached with questions before about bridge abutments. Was there a railroad there? There was. And so in this park, you have so many more people and drawing people in, just teaching people about the history, like past, present, and now we're also looking at the future of this park.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thought. Was it when you were at, was it something where people would just use like a screenshot a QR code and it would pop up something on their phone about the mill? I think I've seen stuff like that before. That would be a good use because signs can get vandalized and that sort of stuff. So it would be handy to have something where everybody's carrying their smartphone anyway. You use it for a food menu. You might as well use it to learn about some history too.
Exactly. And that's, you could also, excuse me, you could also be updating it too. So like, where you do a picture, you could have the story, that QR code, you could still just be like, you can still feed on it with all the information and pictures. And hopefully some people would have more pictures to add on to, whichever site that you're looking at.
Right.
Excuse me. I have not been, the allergies are still on me pretty hard right now. This is where I was not missing the rain. Excuse me. Sorry, when the rain was happening, I was just like, please get rid of the rest of the pollen.
Flush it away.
Not really for me though. And so actually if you could just give me, because I'm gonna need some water just to clear my throat, some of the more future plans for the park.
Christy, you want that?
Sure. So we're working on, like Jeremy said, the design plans and the funding for the bicycle pump track. We already have some trails installed, and we're always out there widening and maintaining those, but we're also working on lengthening the primary trail in there, which is a multi-use trail, from the park all the way to Cross Mill Road. So about 1.25 miles, maybe a little longer in trail miles. And this will help connect people who want to actually hike a loop so they can incorporate the Winnipesaukee River Trail. We already have some camping that we permit during Winnipesaukee River Days, but we're also working on the installation of a bona fide campground with a bathhouse, so that we have public restrooms for people who are both camping at the campground and just utilizing some of the day use features in the park. We have a graffiti wall, so we do encourage on some of the old ruins. On the graffiti wall, we encourage youth or whoever to go and display art there on the wall. And it's really neat to watch how that evolves throughout the year. We try to give them a blank canvas sometimes around Winnie River Days, just kind of paint it white and let it all happen again. But it's fun to watch. The mill ruins are kind of cool to walk through and walk by. Let's see. The climbing wall is another thing that we're incorporating into the design build for the park. And then the community garden, which we hope to incorporate some natural pollinators, some natural pest deterrent, as well as fruit and berries, bushes and trees, things of that nature, into one area where the public can come and harvest those fruits. So
Would that be for the public garden? Anybody could plant on that, or would there be a design and it would just be inviting people?
So
That
right
sounds pretty
now,
cool. It does.
yeah, right now it would be, we would design it, and we're working with a few folks on that design. Someone on our board is actually very well educated in green spaces such as that. And so we're working to develop something that we could plant and then have the public come and enjoy that. But we'd like to get them involved in terms of maintaining that food as well as harvesting the food. And then I'm not sure what will happen down the road. Having a community space where people can actually rent a plot might be something that we do down the road, but that might be a lot to manage at this point. So
It's good to have the idea out there and just something to look forward to. So that will be some good future things in the future where you could have a plot.
well,
And some
and we,
people are going to be able to really take care of it better than others,
right.
and just need to emulate it. Yeah.
Right. But we do want to invite people in, and we have a lot more housing in the downtown area than we had before. So as that evolves too, I think that it's just natural for people who maybe have downsized from their own freestanding home with a garden plot to be able to still have kind of that sense of food ownership, if you would, and some kind of responsibility, or at least the enjoyment of knowing where your food comes from, picking some blueberries or something like that.
I like that idea. That's why locally grown and sourced food is fantastic.
Yes.
And we'll be seeing much, much more of it in the near future, I think, of the way prices are going with everything right now. So it'll be good.
True.
And some of the other festivals, so we have the Winnie Days. Any other festivals, whether they're going to be planned or if there's going to be any ideas, let's say concerts or routine concerts, weekends and stuff like that. Any ideas there?
So we, starting last year, we really ramped up the number of events that we promote. We've always had, Winnie River Days is our sort of signature event. It's our largest one. And we've always had a few other ones. Our one that you might have seen, well, first of all, do you know that Franklin has a ski area, John, that's a little bit bigger than your Kank ski area up there in Lincoln? It's called Veterans Memorial.
Veterans Memorial, yes.
Yeah. And these days, it's got a couple really awesome machine-made mountain bike trails on it for the summer and whatnot. And it's got all sorts of, it's part of a huge, huge town-owned forest. But we have hosted an event called the Boat Bash Snow Crash, and it's been off and on for about the last 7 years. There have been some years where it's had to be canceled for no snow. There was at least 1 year where it happened on a powder day with a foot of snow. And then this year was the first year that Veterans Memorial actually was able to put in a snowmaking system, pretty modest, but still impressive that they were able to make their own snow in order to guarantee that they would have enough base to make it. Because we try to make the Boat Bash Snow Crash fall in line with the tail end of winter vacation, which is part of the Winter Carnival in Franklin. So it winds up being, first weekend in March, sort of tail end of the school vacation for New Hampshire. And so that, as you can imagine, at an elevation like Franklin and a ski area without snowmaking, that's a crapshoot, and it's hard to plan an event. And that's true of all of our events. Because we operate outside in central New Hampshire, they're all very weather dependent. If we get sideways rain, chances are it's going to be pretty limited, the number of people who are going to come out to stand around and drink beer and watch kayakers if it's 38 degrees and it's raining sideways. The Boat Bash Snow Crash is downhill kayaking, basically, on a ski area. So it's not like you in a Warren Miller movie, you've probably seen guys out in Alaska or somewhere in like a powder-filled, wide open bowl. This is more like, on a groomed track, a little bit, like you might see some banked turns like in a terrain park might have. And so it's a fairly short course, but we tend to do sort of time trials and then a few head-to-head downhill kayak, rounds. And so that's an event where a lot of our events, we are partnering with other nonprofits. So that's the Franklin Outing Club. They're the ones who operate the Veterans Memorial Ski Area. So we put on that event in conjunction with them. Last year, we had a summer event that was called Dawn to Dusk, which was a lot of fun. But it was a heavy lift for the board. Everybody, I can see Jeremy's tired just thinking about it.
Yeah.
That was one where we chose a summer Saturday, and we tried to make it so that there would be people surfing the wave in downtown Franklin, literally from the moment the sun came up until it went down. So, it was about a 15+ hour day for a lot of people. And it's one where, because it's a summertime event with low water, it's a good one to try to get new users of the Whitewater Park, bring in new people. So it's a great boogie boarding event. It's great for kids. We did manage to get the local theater troupe who were preparing to put on the Monty Python play. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Spamalot.
Spamalot, yeah, thank you. So the crew from Spamalot came and did a musical performance in the amphitheater. And we had some other sort of silly shenanigans in order to keep it interesting. We will do something similar. It probably will not be a long duration event, but we will definitely do something similar where it's an effort to bring new people in, provide people a boogie board and a PFD if they're interested in trying out the wave. Because that's really the entry point into using the Whitewater Park in the river for most people. If you're not already a kayaker, boogie boarding is the way. If you it doesn't require a lot of expensive gear. It doesn't require a ton of skills. And it's an inexpensive and fairly easy way to get people involved and bring them in. So we'll do something like that again. And then last year we had our first, we're sort of piggybacking on, you've heard of the taco event down in Manchester that they've had. We did a taco tour where several local restaurants, even places where tacos are not their normal thing. So like the Vulgar, the pizza and brewery place had a taco. The creperie that's in town called Downtown Crepes, they made tacos. some churches, some other nonprofits. Jeremy made some excellent tacos as well for Mill City Park. We had our own little taco tour event. Am I missing, guys? Am I skipping? Am I mentally forgetting any other events that we put on?
We partnered with the theater group to do a haunted river walk for Halloween.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that one again.
Yeah,
And then-
in the lead up to Halloween, we did within Mill City Park. Because as you can imagine, a lot of people think walking through the woods through old abandoned mills is kind of creepy to begin with.
I think that sounds awesome.
We
It was
did a
fun.
little
Having a haunted walk through those
Yeah.
woods and imagining those buildings just being themed out. You don't have to theme it out. This would be great. Oh,
what
yeah,
we need to
definitely that
do,
again.
what we need to do next year, and we should remind, is that we need to have. It needs to be tiered. It needs to be like a kid-friendly one for this many hours, and then
Right.
a second one where we can really scare people a little bit.
Yeah.
That might be pretty fun. We did not do that last time. It was kind of the same, regardless of what age you were, or what time of day you came. It was the same level of scariness. So yes, thank you, Jeremy. And then January 1st, we've sort of taken over the January 1st event. Like that long predates Mill City Park as an organization. It was always sort of informal back in the 80s and early 90s. It was kind of the New Year's Day, the hangover cure. You go out, you run the river, and then there's a group. There was a proposal to put in a dam and de-water the Winnie in the late 90s, and so a group, Friends of the Winnipesaukee River, sprung up, and they started promoting it as a something to raise awareness in the early 90s. And then a nonprofit group that's they're not really a chamber of commerce, but they're similar. It's called Choose Franklin. And it's all about promoting positivity and encouraging people to, look into Franklin when you're looking for a place to live in central New Hampshire or whatnot. So Choose Franklin came in and sort of took over a little bit of the organizational, like providing a warm place for people, setting up a tent, sometimes with a place to get warm, some space heaters and that sort of stuff, place to change clothes. Place to give out promotional info, and that sort of has transitioned to this year. This was the first year, the second year that we hosted the Polar Plunge on New Year's Day, which is kind of funny because you already have a ton of people already in the water, but most of the people who are in the water are wearing dry suits or wetsuits, a lot of gear and stuff. And so we had the Polar Plunge this year, and also a chili cook-off, which was in the warming tent. On New Year's Day. So that's another sort of new event that we put on within the last year. So it's been a lot of new. We have a new staff member who's been great, and she has really helped promote our events in particular, and getting ourselves organized and partnering with other nonprofits and other businesses in downtown Franklin. So that's
I love our collaboration with those other nonprofits and the businesses. It just makes it so much more fun. And
yes.
I'm always amazed, like, it doesn't even matter what the weather is New Year's Day. The people that come out to participate and spectate, oh my gosh, It's incredible. It's so much fun to see.
It's just a crazy outing.
Yeah.
Just the whole concept of it, and watching videos of it, talking to people that have done it. It just seems like this New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Imagine like any serious paddler that doesn't mind the wintertime. Yeah, this would have to be something that you have to do. And I haven't been there myself, but just hearing the stories of it, it just sounds like a blast. And it's just getting bigger and bigger. And I love the idea of having a warming tent, having a chili, like you said, the collaboration between all the nonprofits and people interested in growing this park. That's what still, I know I kind of repeat myself when I say this, just draws my interest over and over again about the Mill City Park at Franklin Falls, is that it just seems to grow, and nobody's in a rush, but it's still moving forward. Sometimes when people are trying to create some sort of recreational destination, it's too much at the same time, or it's too little, or there's no true message of what they're trying to do. And we've seen that happen all over this region. I'm not going to mention any things, but anyway, this is what I like about the last, the 10 years that this park has just been growing and growing, And there's just more information that's happening. So it's a little bit for everybody, but of course, as the part of the theme is drawing everybody to the river, the community to the river. And it does work. They just say that not nonprofits collaborating, then you do have for-profits. We've mentioned those breweries.
Yeah.
And how they're growing, and that it's just going to be followed as years go on.
Yeah, I think the thing that we've kind of always done is, not necessarily looking at it as growing the park, but growing a community around the park and around the river has sort of been a big theme. So partnering with everyone else in the community rather than just saying, we're doing this. This is what our focus is, but doing all of these events and all these things around that to involve the community, bring the community together, bring people into the community from outside, I think has been one of the reasons that we've been successful.
And we've seen a lot more,
Yeah.
not just kayak paddlers, but I can't, also I think about the number of rafters, the number of rafts that come down the river now compared to, just a couple of years ago. It's pretty impressive too. So, yeah.
My wife being one of them, bringing her shredder. So, so quite a few times. And she has a new trailer for the shredder now. So it's going to be that much easier to move the shredder without having to deflate it every single time. So it's quite exciting.
She also has a boogie board. She has one of the nice inflatable NRS boogie boards like I have too. I've seen her there with that as well. So.
Yep. So this is cool. It's really cool.
So when we get the new feature in, I'll want to go on the boogie board too. So I'll be looking for some tips. Yeah.
Nice. And it's interesting. Sometimes we forget you hear about the boogie boarding and whitewater kayakers, but like the rafting too. And again, you can have rafts that you're going to be paddling yourself or relatively few people. And it's good to see that they're being drawn to the river too. That you have this consistent, for the most part, very consistent water. And instead of not having to drive so far up into Maine, those white waters are great. Don't get me wrong, not bashing them, but again, you have to time it just right. And it is a very long day, or really a very long weekend to take those days and go up there. So it's great that this option is still here. Is here, and that the people are bringing their rafts there too.
Yeah, I mean that the long day to northern Maine or whatever, that's really it's true in every sport. In every sport there's something where there's a small thing that you can do that's almost training for future expeditions or training for building a skill set. So like sport climbing or people who climb at gyms versus somebody who is scaling Cannon Cliff is the same sort of somebody who is, when Jeremy and I go out and we spin around in various directions in our kayaks at 250 CFS, I mean, as silly as it is, we went and ran the Grand Canyon last November. And, it seems silly, but the way that I stayed in shape mentally and physically for that long, 18 days of high volume whitewater paddling was making sure that I got out twice a week on the 250 CFS flowing through downtown Franklin.
Oh, absolutely.
So it provides a training ground for people who do other activities. And so I think that's like that. It's the same thing with, look at that little, got a friend there. I like it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
himself to you.
Jackson the cat.
Nice.
Trying to stuff his face into my glass of water, which is, sorry, buddy, it's almost empty.
But yeah, no, so like that's the nature of sort of whitewater play boating. Obviously it's not just it can be a means to an end. There are people, Jeremy, one of them, who's like a super high end freestyle paddler, but for a lot of people it's going out and just it makes you focus on which way you're making sure you're leaning your boat properly, which way, and just throwing a lot of strokes and paddling, not really going much of anywhere, but it dials in, it gets you in shape, and just gets you in the habit of being out there and doing something. I'm sure Christy goes on short hikes a lot before she takes on a large, trek.
In fact, I do. Yes.
No doubt. So
Yeah.
that is there in every sport, and so Franklin, we're trying to make Franklin a place where people, as we've talked about, it's not just the Whitewater Park, and it does sort of seem like that because all the stuff that's been built so far has mostly been Whitewater related, and then it's been the board members and our volunteer crew out there cleaning up the land-based portion of the park. Most of the money has gone into the work, in the river, and that's true for our remaining features. You got to sort of work from the river out, and then we also realized that we're building a really cool land-based park, but the reality of it is, like you said, there are towns with industrial relics and hiking trails and green spaces in not every community, but a lot of them. So the Whitewater Park is a big part of it, and it's the thing that makes it the most unique. But it's not really, in the end, 10 years from now, when you look at Mill City Park, I think Whitewater will still be a major component of it, but it's not going to be as heavily Whitewater focused as it seems right now. And certainly to people who have no interest in whitewater paddling and wonder why this is wound up in their town,
Well, I think one of the reasons, that we have to install the whitewater features first is because if we were to build out the land portion, I mean, we have to drive over the land portion to get into the water. So that unfortunately for me comes last, but it's okay. It's going to happen, and people are going to love it.
It's logistics.
Yes.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So, I said logistics, and it's just steps at a time. As long as you're moving forward, that's all that counts. And as you're saying about paddling the Grand Canyon, you never make fun of like a small ski area or a small hike or something, because that's what keeps you in tune all the time.
Sure.
Yes, so that's great. And again, Mill City's offering that right there, very close to a very populated area, and the fact is people can go there after work, and especially this time of year where it's light until like 9 o'clock.
Yep.
And go down, just practice your chops, and just keep, just stay right there, ready to go.
Yep.
For any of the bigger trips. Well, this has been again. I've learned so much, and it's been fun talking with all of you, because that's what I can do is just kind of sit back and just listen. And this has been great. So this time, we definitely should, maybe at the end of the summer, early fall, let's do this again. So we'll talk about what happened this last summer. Everything work out well. Hopefully everything will. And anything else you want to talk about before we go? We've covered a lot. And
did we even talk about river surfing?
We didn't really even talk about river surfing.
Talk about river surfing. Absolutely.
One of the next features that's going to go in is more oriented toward board surfing, stand-up paddle boarding. That's a very popular thing in a lot of the whitewater parks, and there's not really anywhere around here to do it. So,
is this going to be that feature at the top of the run?
That will be the uppermost feature. Yeah.
Yep.
Very. So how does that feature? What do you have to do to make that adaptable or doable? Excuse my terms. So,
from the surfing end or from the construction end. So unlike the current wave, where there's a big white foam pile, and it's what we, as paddlers, we refer to it as a hole. If you're familiar with the ocean, it's more like a wave after it has broken, and it's that white foamy maw that you still see surfers and boogie boarders at the ocean. They'll ride that right into the beach. Mm-hmm. They're not always on a big sort of just barely breaking wave, but that's essentially what we're trying to create, is something that is not as foamy. It's a little bit like a wave that's just barely breaking. And so people riding a surfboard will have a much better chance of being able to carve across the face of it and cut back and forth. We do. I don't know if you saw the one video I sent. The video I sent you of the surfer That's probably the most skilled surfer that I've seen at Mill City Park. He was excellent, and you can tell he's very, very good at what he does. But even he is just kind of hanging on for dear life out there trying to surf that feature. Because he's from Maine. A lot of the time, New England surfers, they're lucky if they get a 20-second ride on a wave. And then you get to a whitewater park, you can sit there for 5 minutes. I mean, people are exhausted because they're just not used to that length of time. The hard work is in the paddling out, breaking out through the waves in order to ride back in for 20 seconds or something like that. On a man-made whitewater surf feature, it's only etiquette or your own physical limitations that's stopping you from sitting there all day riding the wave. So, it can be pretty tiring. But no, it should be that should be the top feature. It should hopefully go in this summer, assuming we can only work our contractors and our permit is only valid during a period of low water. So if the river stays high, that's what happened last time we talked to you. Was right before construction was supposed to start on the first feature, and we went right into a high water summer. So instead of the construction starting in July, construction really didn't start till September or October and finished up in February. So like I said, the water levels, there's just, you can use historical data, but sometimes that historical data gets thrown out the window in the current moment.
And it's usually when you rely on it, it's like, it can't,
Right.
we're going to be in that cycle right now. No, we're not.
Right. Yeah.
So,
But yeah,
well, that sounds really cool. Unfortunately, I don't know why. I did watch that video, and that video was totally badass. But unfortunately, it wasn't loading into this platform. I even tried putting it into my video editor, but whatever.
That's okay.
We'll try it again. We'll try it again. And if I get it to work, I'll just put it on social media to say, this is what Nick was talking about.
Okay.
So, what it is for everybody watching right now, listening, and it is absolutely, as you said, he's just so skilled, and it's like, I cannot do that. I would like to, though. We can work toward it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, this was great.
Yeah.
So much information. Again, so much information that I've learned a lot. Learned a lot, and I'm so happy that we got to connect again. It's not going to be 5 years next time. Hopefully, it's only 4 months, not 5 years.
Fine. Definitely tell people to come out to Winnie River Days. That's the next
Yeah.
thing. Like, that's the most important thing. If you're putting this out there, come down. There's a beer garden. There's live music. You can watch people whitewater kayak. You can learn a little bit about Franklin. You can walk the trails, meet people. It's an exciting time. A lot of people haven't checked out Franklin's restaurant offerings these days.
Yeah.
If you haven't been there in 5 or 10 years, it's a lot different than you might remember it. So
You have that.
definitely come out to Winnie River Days.
There'll be great vibes in the streets that day of that whole weekend. And just to say, like compared to 10, 15 years ago, it's changed. It's this transition that's happening right now. And this is where the demographics are just moving along in a very good, positive note. That's great.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Nick, Jeremy, Christy, thank you very much for coming on the Pemmy Valley podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank
Thanks.
You're welcome, and we'll definitely do it again. And if you want to hold on just for a minute, we will. I'll touch base once we're off the air.
Okay.
Thanks.
Insects annoying you? Bond Clip Bug Protection is all natural and made in New Hampshire. Repel those biting insects. Bond Clip Bug Protection for all those who work and play outdoors.